Construction began on the Queen Mary, only known to the people at the time as Hull 534, in December of 1930, just as the Great Depression surged throughout Europe. This is the story of how the world's largest ship was completed in the middle of the Great Depression. The year is 1928, and Cunard's current fleet of ships, known at the time as the Big Three, were getting old. The Big Three consisted of the Mauretania, the Aquitania, and the Berengaria, all of which were passing 15 to 20 years of age. These ships were no doubt loved by the public, but were seeing less and less travelers by the year. Meanwhile, Cunard's rivals, the Italian line, were planning the Conti di Savoia, and Norddeutsche Lloyd were planning a new series of superships, the SS Bremen and Europa. Cunard was in serious danger of being outclassed. In order to stay in the race, Cunard would have to make a new pair of sister ships. These new ships would be the beginning of a planned reduction in the company's fleet size, due to the older ships' age and the slowing migrant numbers going to America. These new ships would have to be the fastest and biggest of their time. They would have to facilitate over 2,000 paying customers in order to travel at 27 to 29 knots on average and still make a profit. The ships would be over 1,000 feet long and around 120 feet wide. They would be absolute monsters for their time. But just as Cunard's colossal plans for these ships were coming together, the stock market crashed, and Cunard could no longer find an insurer. They had no other choice but to turn to the British government. At first, the British government was highly skeptical of the idea. They initially refused to help because they feared wasting taxpayer money on a luxury ship during a severe economic crisis. But although they were skeptical at first, they eventually came around, knowing all the jobs the project would support. The state passed the Cunard Insurance Agreement Act of 1930, enabling the government to underwrite whatever portion of the risk the private insurer market could not cover. After the act passed, Cunard began to lay the first keel plates of Hull 534. From here, the ship got bigger by the day. By 1931, the ship was 9 stories high and almost 80% complete. But then, the Great Depression's grip hardened and Cunard could no longer finance the project. On December 10, 1931, a devastating announcement was posted at the shipyard gates, reading, "The Cunard Company has sent a notice to the builders of the new liner, number 534, to stop work on the vessel. The company has decided that it is necessary to suspend construction pending a review of the financial situation." The next day, on December 11th, construction was officially stopped. Nearly 3,000 workers fell into unemployment that day, a devastating blow for the Cunard line. For the next 2.5 years, the colossal unpainted hull sat abandoned, slowly turning a deep, rusting red under the harsh rain. Cunard was desperate. They had no other option but to go back to the British government, not for an insurer, but for a cash loan to finish the ship. Chancellor of the Exchequer Naval Chamberlain saw an opportunity. He was not about to give away taxpayers' money without a catch. Cunard's oldest rival, the White Star Line, was also in severe financial hardship at the time. Chamberlain told Cunard that the government would provide the cash on one condition. Cunard had to merge with the White Star Line to create one British shipping company. Cunard hesitated but agreed. During May of 1934, Cunard officially merged with the White Star Line, forming Cunard White Star Limited. Following their deal, the British government granted the newly formed Cunard White Star with a $48 million loan. That's $800 million today, adjusted for inflation. In April 1934, the shipyard opened again with extreme excitement. The workers' first task was to remove hundreds of bird nests and over 100 tons of rust off the frame of the unfinished ship. It was a huge undertaking, but in just 6 months, the job was done. The date is September 26, 1934, and an estimated 250,000 people gathered to watch Hull 534, now officially named the Queen Mary, slide down slipway number 4 at the John Brown & Company shipyard. The ship is a huge success, and just 4 years later, the Queen Mary would receive her well-awaited sister ship, the Queen Elizabeth. The Queen Mary would go on to have a fascinating career, from carrying thousands of troops across the ocean to safety during the Second World War, to being transformed into a hotel in Long Beach, California, where she still is today.